sex.
Welcome back to the worst channel on YouTube. I am DimmerGames420 and today we're going to be taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Android 21 lab coat from Dragon Ball FighterZ. She was released at a retail price of about $65 as a Dragon Ball Games Battle Hour exclusive and was sent out in September for Japan, but the US had to wait until October to get it. But regardless of that, we're here today and we're going to take a look at Android 21. So without any further ado, let's have a look at the figure, starting off where all these other reviews start off, her box. So like I said, we're going to be starting off with our box, and fortunately this is going to be pretty quick because it is almost identical in terms of design to Clone Goku. It's basically the standard Figuarts box with a black panel line as opposed to a white panel line and this sort of polygonal pattern on the card behind her. But other than that, it is essentially the same as what you'd get out of any other box. Got a picture over on the front, silver Toei sticker, thankfully no Snake's Den sticker this time. Blue Bandai, Tamashii Nations, Dragon Ball Games Battle Hour, Bandai Collector's Shop, and Dragon Ball FighterZ logos. Designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits made in China, Tamashii Nations quality seal, and her name written all the way down the window here in both English and Japanese. Same thing on the side here. You also get her name written once again on the bottom. And on the back here you have all the pictures of her doing her thing, whatever that is, because I don't play fighters. And on the bottom here we have a different distributor sticker slapped over top of everything. So this time it is being distributed by Bandai Namco as opposed to being distributed by Bluefin. I think what happened was a merger, but I don't know in all honesty. And on the other side of the box we have some pictures of 21 as well as her name written again. On the top we have a picture of her face, and on the bottom we have another picture of her face and her name written once again. So that out of the way, let's get 21 out of her box. Here 21 is out of her box, and she's surprisingly not that difficult to get standing straight up, unlike most figures that also have sort of long appendages coming from their backs, which is also shocking given the fact that she wears high heels, but we will get into that later. Well, that's besides the point. Right now we're going to be taking a look at some comparisons. So here she is standing next to Warrior Awakening Goku and another Battle Hour exclusive, the 2021 Clone Goku, Triclops and Victor Chow's. Insert overused pun here and Demon. 21 unfortunately sets a very bad precedent for exclusives going forward because she is an entirely brand new sculpt from head to toe, and I did compare it to the original. I didn't bring her out for this review, but I do have the original, and even the hair is different on this figure. So let's just get everything out of the way here. She looks really good. Everything down to the way her dress is sculpted, all the wrinkles throughout it, that sort of give it this tight look to it, like it's sort of snug on her body, where the lab coat has noticeably more wrinkles in it, and it sort of gives it a more loose look, I suppose. Generally, the paint on this figure is pretty good. What little paint there is, that would mostly come down to her face, which isn't necessarily too visible through the glasses. This one isn't particularly my favorite, but that's okay because it was pretty much designed for her to wear with the glasses on. But overall, she looks pretty good, save for a couple of areas where the finish is inconsistent, namely her leg. Here you can see there is a noticeable glossy spot, and then it just all of a sudden gets really matte towards her knee. I don't know what's going on there, but it's not the greatest looking. The only real major thing that I don't really care for are the colors that they went with on the actual dress itself, because if you look at her in-game, the red is much brighter than it is on the figure, and the blue is a little less of a teal than it is in person. In camera it sort of appears the same way, but in person it's a little more of a greenish, bluish teal kind of color, and I'm not the biggest fan of the two colors they went with. At the end of the day, that is really kind of nitpicking it, because otherwise, yeah, she is really good from an aesthetic standpoint. So I suppose that about does it for the paint and sculpt, as abridged as that was. Let's move on to her accessories. As far as Android 21's accessories are concerned, you get 5 faces with her. You get the standard face you get out of the box, as well as another stern, standard looking sort of face, which is slightly more grimaced. You also get a yelling face where her mouth looks really weird in my opinion. I don't know what it is. It appears it's just a little too flat for my liking, but you also do get a pretty good looking gritted teeth face, and probably the best face on the figure, her smiling face. You also get 6 pairs of hands, including the fists on her in the box, a pair of open palmed key blast hands, martial arts fighting sort of hands with a paint splotch on the right hand for mine, flat palm chopping or beam sword hands, which you can use Goku Black's beam sword on her, which is good. You also get pointing finger or candy beam hands, as well as a pair of hands for her to hold her glasses with, which I'll warn you ahead of time, the glasses are small, made out of very thin plastic, and while they aren't necessarily as hard as Master Roshi's, what I've gathered of him at least, I don't actually have him, there is a good chance you will end up snapping or losing them if you're not careful. In addition, you also get a pair of crossed arms, which can be a bit tedious to put on because of the way her arms are designed, and a candy beam effect, which is pretty nicely done and works on both 21s to the best of my knowledge. So if you have the old one, you can use that effect piece on her as well. Unfortunately, mine appears to be a little warped because it was sent in the clamshell incorrectly. Good on you, Tamashii. Really outdid yourselves there, assholes. 21's articulation, at least in my opinion, is proof that Tamashii needs to fire whoever the hell has been doing the promotional pictures for these figures as of late, because it's a lot better than it looks. You can get pretty decent side to side out of her neck, combining both the barbell joint in her head and the actual ball peg for the neck. You also get a ball hinge for her hair, which allows her head to look a little further up than it would otherwise, and you can get her to look pretty far down. Her shoulder goes full 360 in a ball socket, and it can go up about that far. She can cross her chest better than most Gokus, surprisingly. As you can see, that is some ridiculous cross despite her tig old bitties. Her bicep can go full 360, double joint at the elbow. Bizarrely enough, she has a forearm swivel, probably just an added little point of articulation. Ball hinge at the wrist that allows it to pivot and swivel. Get a pretty decent ab crunch, given the design. It's not the best in the world, but it certainly could be worse. You also do get a little rotation out of the lower waist, as well as ball hinges on rubbery material for the back of her coat. As far as her hips are concerned, her thighs can spread about that far, which isn't too good. That's about 45 degrees. Kick back about that far, not the greatest in the world, but I mean, this is modern Figuarts we're talking about, where they can't kick for shit these days. Leg can kick forward about that much, and get a thigh swivel, which can almost break her leg. That is quite wild articulation right there. Single joint at the knee, which works pretty well, other than it's a little loose on mine and does not look very good when it's straightened out. And then you get a full 360 at the ankle, as well as that far down, that far up, that far in, and that far out on a ball hinge and some pretty worthless toe articulation, seeing as how she is in heels, and I don't think that's how this works. But nonetheless, good articulation all around. And that said, let's move into my final thoughts on 21. So ending this review, what do I think of 21? At the end of the day, while she does have her flaws, namely the meh torso articulation, her being a little tougher to stand because of her design, and the really frail glasses and the weird dress colors they went with, she's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I personally think she came out a lot better than I was anticipating. Generally speaking, I was not expecting this figure to turn out as good as she did, in no small part thanks to the awful marketing Tamashi did. At the end of the day, this figure itself proved me wrong. She can move pretty decently despite her dress and looks really nice, aside from a few flubs here and there. So would I recommend you get her? At current aftermarket prices, I am not too sure. The cheapest I've seen her is 100 on Big Bad Toy Store, but I've seen markups as far as 180, so I would personally wait for a deal for her. But if you got the money and or you like the character, then she is absolutely worth picking up. But with that said, this has been Games 420, and I'll see you guys next time. Welcome back to the worst channel in all of YouTube. I'm Games. She released back in September. God damn it. In any case, let's take a look at the. So in any case, let's start this review with everything. English, motherfucker! Do you speak it? Starting off with the box, it's about the same as usual. Starting off with the box, it is about. Screw this. Surprisingly, she was not that much of a pain in my ass to stand up, but shit.